Hey, kids, and welcome to Conscious Embodiment, Astrology, and Dreams with Dr. Michael Lennox, coming at you for August 29th through September 4th. How you feeling there, Zoe? Because it's a rough moment in Zoe world.
I have COVID, so
Yeah. Second round, too, right?
yeah, this is the second go. I heard it gets easier each time.
But is it true?
I mean, I'm less tired than I was before, but it's here. It's not like,
Got it. All
yeah.
right. Well, thanks for rousing up out of bed for doing our podcast recording. This is actually going to be a very, very short astrology segment. It's the fifth Monday of the month, which means we have a guest. Our guest is Michael Sandler of Inspire Nation, one of my favorite colleagues. I do his podcast, YouTube show once or twice a year talking about astrology. And he's got an extraordinary story about becoming a dad and a family experience that was brutal and filled with a spiritual process. So I'm so excited to meet with Michael. But there are some things to talk about in the world of astrology. Most notably, this coming week is the first big week in Mercury's retrograde shadow.
Step 1?
Yes, the step one piece where he's triggering territory that he will backtrack over when he turns around, which he does next month, September 9th. So we've got a while before the backward sort of difficulty starts. But there are 4 triple transits during this retrograde cycle. And by triple transit, we mean the transits he will make 3 times. Once now in this first act of what we call the retrograde shadow. Then he'll do it a second time during the backward motion, and then a third time in the wrap up in October. That's what I mean by triple transits. And so the transits that a Mercury retrograde is going to involve tell the energetic story. It tells the sort of sensation of what the retrograde is going to feel like. And when the transits hit in this first act part, it's like getting the brochure for the retrograde process. It's like, here's the stuff you're going to be working with. And 3 out of these 4, and the more difficult ones, happen this week. So here are the transits. The first one's actually hitting today, Monday. So if you're listening to this podcast as it came out, understand that Mercury is agitating Uranus in what we call the Sesca square. Sesca square is a 135-degree angle. It's a very weak geometry. It can't make anything and it can't break anything, but it is sort of a sensation of agitation or frustration. Uranus is always about movement and freedom. And so if there's an agitation of frustration to the planet that wants us to sort of break out, try something new, take a risk, have freedom, be unencumbered, this is a frustration with that idea of I feel penned in, I feel held back. That's the essence of Mercury in a Sesca square with Uranus, the great awakener. We also might find ourselves yesterday, today, and tomorrow coping with some unexpected frustrations because when Uranus is in the house, things come up out of nowhere, right? And so that energy of consternation around feeling held back or not having the freedom you want or something coming up very unexpectedly that demands your attention yesterday, today, or tomorrow, that will be part of Mercury's retrograde in September. As we get to Thursday and Friday of this week, the other two challenging Mercury cycles happen. On Thursday, the focus is on this same geometry, a sesqui square between Mercury and Saturn, followed by an opposition to Jupiter the very next day. So these come in tandem. Saturn is always going to be about delays, slowdowns, and breakdowns, lessons that come when we face restrictions. So Mercury, the planet of thought and mind, in a sesqui square with Saturn, the frustration that that geometry brings will be about things not happening the way you want, being disappointed, feeling frustrated at the pace of things, actually having something you desire turn into a big fat no. And that's the lesson from Saturn. And then an opposition from Mercury to Jupiter isn't such a bad transit in and of itself. It's sort of the mind facing off and having a little dance with all possibility and expansion. That's a good thing. And there's a saying that says there's no such thing as a bad Jupiter aspect or transit. But there's a shadow artifact of Mercury opposing Jupiter, which is overblown.
Of everything, right?
Yeah, everything over the top, too much. Too much reactivity in the mind the day after a frustration breaks on delay makes this whole couple of days at the end of the week potentially ripe with frustrating delays and breakdowns and lessons and arguments and reactivity and too much reaction to a difficult event. Like that's the shadow setup of the end of the week. Now, this is not a guarantee. Not everybody's going to be fighting their way out of a conflict Thursday and Friday. But it's definitely a couple of days of more frustrating communication than easy flowing communication. And just understand, and this is the important piece, the issues that come up this week or the narratives in your negotiations that arise will have some ongoing need to attend to things again in later September and in October. So things that arise this week are unlikely to be a one and done, but they're more likely to indicate a process that might take a couple of weeks to work out or negotiate through or make some sense of. So as ever, in this first act of every Mercury retrograde cycle, the more you pay attention and clock the things that are difficult in your neck up experiences, the more graceful the backward journey will be, and the more you will get out of that journey when Mercury is in the unconscious mind for that 2.5 weeks next month. Something of great importance happens on Saturday, September 3rd. Mars is going to enter his shadow for his upcoming retrograde. Yeah, Mars is going retrograde in a rare every sort of 2 to 3 year process. Venus and Mars both, without great regularity, with consistency, they both retrograde about every 2 to 3 years. Mars recently entered Gemini. He typically will spend 6 weeks in a sign. He will be a Gemini for 7 months. He doesn't leave Gemini until March of 2023 because of this retrograde. This retrograde is so important for us to pay attention to in a consciousness way. I will be doing a masterclass on this.
Oh, wow.
I don't have a date set yet. Yeah. Listen, Mars is about your walk. The trope of aligning your walk and your talk, we know this as a kind of an important spiritual staple, if you will. I mean, it's a trope and it's silly, but it's accurate. That when we walk our talk, that means that our choices and the decisions that we make are in alignment with right thinking. And this is something we aspire to and sometimes struggle with. Mars is the planet of the walk. He is the planet that reflects how we choose, what we choose, and what we focus on in terms of the physical resources of our man body hours, our person, body hours. In the sign of Gemini, Mercury ruled, and the sign of thoughts and ideas. A Mars retrograde in that sign is designed to get everybody walking a talk that is in greater sense of alignment. That's why this one is, I think, more important than other ones we have moved through, and why it felt like I wanted to create a product that would guide people through. I don't have the date set for that yet, but just know that in the next week or so at michaellennox.com, you will easily be able to find access to this masterclass that I will do sometime in the next week or so. And I will be talking about the Mars retrograde week by week by week. I'm not going to go into any greater depth today because I want to keep this a little short and get to the beautiful interview with Michael Sanders that's coming right up. But understand that as of Saturday and Sunday, as of this weekend, we are officially in Mars's retrograde shadow, where for the next bunch of weeks, things that we bump into with regard to our goals, our ambitions, our physical health, and the wellness of our bodies, literally anything Martian that comes up starting this weekend in the next bunch of weeks is going to be subject for review when Mars turns around, up and coming. More about that coming. In the meantime, have at this week, kids.
Dr. Michael is offering a comprehensive masterclass on the upcoming Mars retrograde. The 2 to 3 hour live class will be held on Saturday, September 10th at 10 a.m. Pacific time on Zoom. But of course, you can purchase the class and watch the recording whenever you want. The class will be designed for all levels of astrology. The exchange is only $24.99, and you can find out more and register at michaellennox.com.
I love 5 Monday months because I get to talk to some of my favorite people, introduce them to you. And my guest today is someone that I've known about, 2-3 years now, who's out in the world doing very big work with people, changing lives, and really lifting up the world in a beautiful way. Michael Sanders. Michael is an inspirational author, motivational speaker. He's a transformational coach. He's been doing this work for like 3 decades. He's got one of the biggest YouTube channel and sort of blog worlds that I've come across, the Inspire Nation. And, Michael's been so generous with his audience in bringing my work to present to his people that it seemed like a perfect person to bring on and talk to in these beautiful Fifth Monday experiences that I get to have. Michael, welcome. Good to have you here on Conscious Embodiment, since I've done Inspire Nation a bunch of times. Thank you for coming into my backyard.
Oh, you're most welcome, Michael. And I will still say a mighty woohoo.
Yes. Woohoo! Love that, Michael. So, certainly, the first time I ever sat with you, I knew we were cut from the same cloth when you did that woohoo sort of sound, because, I as well like to be expressive in that way. Talk to me a little bit about the work that you do. Like, I gave the bullet points, which is just language I got from your website, right? But talk to me a little bit more about the kind of work that you're doing with people, and maybe even how you distinguish your presentational world of Inspire Nation versus the work that you do with people directly to impact their day to day.
Sounds good. And I'm going to give a teaser to people, which we'll probably be talking about family and baby later. I was just reading at 3 months. So we have a 3.5-month-old. And I was reading about development as at this time period, Michael, you want to be dramatic. You want your voice to go up. You want it to come down. You want it to be here. In other words, you want it to be Dr. Michael Lennox.
with a dash of Michael Sandler, because, dude,
Absolutely.
you ain't that far from me in that world.
So when you say cut from the same cloth, I immediately go to how we speak, how we enunciate, how we carry ourselves.
That's right.
I have Inspire Nation Show, which has been until this point where we have a different guest on our show. It started at 7 shows a week, then went to 5 shows a week, then 3 shows, then 2 shows. And we're actually doing very sporadic interviews now, a little peppering of interviews, because there comes a certain point, and you are well past this point. You're just playing with me, and that's great, where you get to give out the words and messages that are inside of you.
Yeah.
And so there has come a point at which it becomes hard to just share others' words without sharing what the universe wants to birth through me. And so we have a school of mystics, and basically what's a mystic? It's an empathic, somebody who's energetically sensitive, who learns how to use her or his super skills, use that sensitivity. And so we teach a school of mystics each week where we help people to really live on both sides of the veil. I call it seeing without eyes, hearing without ears, knowing without thought, living on both sides of the veil. And then we have this book, Automatic Writing, that I've been sharing with the world. It keeps going off and on as the #1 Angels and Spirit Guides #1 bestseller on Amazon. It's a book where I teach people how to channel through their writing, and anybody can do it. And then you've got guidance from the universe. And so a lot of the work I do is now more on the teaching side of how to communicate with the universe, on how to really free yourself from the matrix, Michael. That's what this is about. But the matrix isn't this big, bad, ugly thing.
Right.
The matrix is a construction.
That's right.
That's here to cause us to go WTF and learn how to actually transcend it and take lessons from it.
That's right. That's right. And we get to be in the matrix and not in it anymore when we learn how to navigate it in this depth way. This automatic writing piece, this tool, this is central to your work.
Yeah.
Am I right about that?
Oh, it's central to my everything, to the birth of my baby girl, to everything. So the long story short, I was spiritual. I had already had a near-death experience or 2. There's a badge you don't need to wear. And I was holding space at a meditation center in Maui for 3 to 4 hours a day, along with my wife, for 6 months straight. We did a couple gigs in a row, a couple years in a row. I'm spiritual. I'm holding space. My world was exploding all around me, Michael. I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know where to go. It was kind of a numbing out through spirituality. It wasn't until I was ejected off of Maui. Wife is sick with mold toxicity. We lost our home. We've got nothing, no finances left. There's a car in the driveway. We're living in her parents' bedroom. Car in the driveway I can't even afford to register. And I'm going, all right, what do I do from here?
Yeah.
There was this tool I had learned and played with. I didn't know if it worked because I thought the words that came through it were so cool. I thought this must be my ego. But that was automatic writing.
Yep. I totally understand that.
It told me specifically what it told me for years was, you're going to be a leader. You're going to be a teacher. You're going to be speaking before thousands and thousands of people from up on a mountaintop, up on high. Leader, teacher, speak before thousands on a mountaintop on high. Come on.
Yeah. It's a big, potentially grandiose vision, although it ain't far from where you landed. The mountain in this case is the internet.
Well, and I have lived just outside Aspen, up on a mountaintop on high, speaking before hundreds of thousands of people. I was invited to the Nobel Peace Prize Summit in Mexico with leaders from around the world.
Yeah.
And I teach. So what happens is you start diving into an automatic writing is a process. I started diving into it every day, started putting my pen to paper and not writing to spirit, but in a sense, spirit started writing through me. And I started having this communication. And over time, it's verified. It's the real deal. And anybody can do it. I just want to keep coming back to that. And it was a process where do I go with my life? What's going on? Why am I here? Why is my wife sick? How do I step forward? What do I do? And that became the birthplace for everything, really the birthplace for a successful show and a coaching career and teaching. And now it is really a cornerstone for all of my work, which is I do a very limited amount of coaching now. But if I was to coach, let's say I was coaching you, Michael, I would say, I don't have the answers. The answers are within you. Let's get you first and foremost a vehicle that you can hear from spirit, because I got my head attached to me, which is a good thing for crossing the road, but it means that I have my own interpretation of things. And now I can channel, certainly, that came out of my automatic writing. I can get words from the other side, but I still have my own darn filter on it. Let's get you communicating directly so that there is no filter, so that you're hearing the unadulterated truth, meaning guidance from the universe specifically for you. Now we can coach. Now we can play. I can help you understand what those words mean. But if you are in communion, meaning deep communication every day with, it could be loved ones who've passed on. It could be, if you want to call them angels or guides or higher dimensional beings, or if you're not into all that stuff, call it a giant cheeseburger, or call it your inner wisdom.
Yeah.
Whatever you want.
Whatever.
Higher self. Perfect.
So you were in this place in your life where the externals, or what I like to call the top of the wheel, was pretty big and expansive, but the bottom of the wheel was constricted and squeezed. And so in this, like, I'm big in the world, but tiny in my heart, this tool spoke to you. You picked it up, you followed it, and it lifted you out of the state that you were in. And then you turned around and then started offering this to your people. Is that how it worked?
Sounds about right. And it's something that came up in my automatic writing this morning, because I was channeling for tonight's YouTube Live event. I do a Monday night YouTube Live event. You can find me on Inspire Nation show.
Inspire Nation.
We focus too much. And I was talking with, of all beings, Mother Earth this morning. And Mother Earth was speaking to me and saying that the solutions are not going to be found on the outside. It's good to recycle. It's good to do all these puzzle pieces, but you need an energetic shift internally that will bring everything about externally. And I was having that backwards. And so I had a great external environment, but the internal wasn't fully being addressed. When you focus on that internal piece, everything shifts, period. Done deal.
I talk about this in every class I ever teach. But how did you personally make that transition, Michael, out of fearing that it was false or egoic or some inserted consciousness, as opposed to something that was trustworthy? How did you do that?
Well, first off, nothing was working. Secondly,
all right, okay, got it.
When I first heard the message, I'm like, yeah, right. And I left it alone for about a year and a half. And I actually read it before a class, and it was awful. I felt like my ego had taken over the class and said how great of a person
on the
I
page,
was.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And then a year and a half later, I tried it again, same thing. And then maybe a little while later, I had a past life regression and got the same thing. And so when I got from Maui to New Jersey to Jessica's, my wife's childhood bedroom, I'm like, what have I got to lose? Let's say that the whole thing is false. Well, where did it come from anyway? Where's my imagination come from? If it didn't come from me, what does it mean to be false? Why don't I just try this and give this a chance and do it every single day? And what happened is I started to learn more about myself and the inner workings of myself and how that relates to the world than I could imagine, which then helped me to navigate the world in a different manner. And it changed everything. But with that said, it was still, I don't know if it was a year or two later, we've got this phenomenal show. We'd been the #1 show on iTunes almost out of the gate. Jessica, my wife, she's always right, and I am not so much so. She had said, you need to write a book on automatic writing. And then automatic writing was saying, you need to write a book on automatic writing. And I'm like, you've got the wrong guy. I'm a life coach. I'm a performance coach. In a different world, I was an ADHD and learning disabilities coach. You want me to go to all of that and be a woo-woo channeling what?
Woo-woo guy. Yes.
And I fought it.
It's reminding me, Michael, of the day in like 2005, I think. I was contacted by a local pretty big radio station in Los Angeles. I got so excited to call them back, assuming, of course, they wanted me to talk about dreams and dream interpretation. And they were like, no, we want you to talk about astrology and this harmonic concordance that's coming up. And I was like, oh my God, I got to get back to you on that. Because I just wasn't sure that I was ready to be a woo-woo guy in a public sort of way. So I totally understand that. But you followed the woo and I wrote the book. You and I are so similar in this way. I call myself half scientist, half mystic. And I think that I get a lot of feedback from people of, oh, I understood that in a way that I never understood before because I bridge both sides of things. And you have that as well. You have this sort of fundamental educative perspective of human behavior and how people interact. And now you've got this sort of new woo-woo thing that you followed and it turned into a book. And how did that change how you work with people?
Everything. It changed the very foundation. Because before I worked with people from the mind, from this little guy up here.
That's right, baby. All mind all the time, which is good, but only half the equation.
The mind will get you in a lot of trouble if you work just from the mind.
Yes, absolutely.
If you work from the deeper place first, where you get to, and this is again for my talk tonight, it's someplace greater than you ever expected. It's why every prayer I finish basically ends with, for my highest good, the highest good of all, or something even better. The or something even better leaves the wiggle room for the universe to come in, however you want to define it, your higher self, and to take you to a far greater place than you imagine. So when you're banging your head against the wall, which is when somebody would call me for help, it may be that where you're trying to get to, and I have to be careful. I used to have to be careful. If somebody's coming to you and they're saying, I need to get to place A, then I'd like to work with you. Well, I know that stuff's about to blow up on them.
That's right. The shit's about to hit the fan and they're about to get really
just mad. The fact, like if somebody, heaven forbid, somebody would call me and say, I'm thinking of switching careers. It's holy crap. It's like duck and cover. Because an email's coming in about 3 days going, I lost my job. The company caught fire. Something blew up. You just know it because it's a pull from their higher self.
That's right. So here's a sort of an oddball question. Maybe it'll sound this way, but I have purpose for it. Who were you on the playground?
No, this is the second time I've gotten this question in the last week. The last time I answered it, for I think it was Lee Carroll and Monica and Cryon for their show, and I used an expletive, so I won't go there. I was a good person, however, I was more me-centered, even though I did things for others. It was about my achievement. It was about my success. It was about push, drive, strive. And Michael, I didn't really hear you. Meaning, I was focused on my own world and not so much paying attention to others. I wasn't a good listener.
Yeah.
It all switched because I started to step outside of me. And there's a much richer, greater world outside of the world that just Michael was playing. So I go back to the spot where I had my first NDE, for instance, April 2nd, 2006, around the time of you being forced to make that shift. And I used to go back there once a year for 7 years, held my hand against the tree next to where I was broken, so to speak. And I was like, thank you. Thank you for the new me. Thank you for this.
Beautiful.
It's not that, some people call these things stand-ins or something. I'm still me. But the me who is here is more of the true me rather than the me that was programmed into me, if we want to use by the Matrix, by our loved ones, by, for Don Miguel Ruiz talking about us being domesticated. Now it's more of the real me, which is much more of a we than a me.
Oh, beautiful. So that first NDA was a car accident.
My first NDE was on my skates, on my rollerblades, rounding a path, training to do a world record skate coast to coast to help students and adults with learning disabilities. So I was focusing on the we. And I had a father step out onto a bike path in front of me, didn't know it, while teaching his baby how to walk.
Oh my God!
Nobody hits the baby. So I threw myself up and back, and I remember in the air, wondering if I'm still going to be able to do my glorious skate, hit the ground, bones exploded, and it was an instant moment of, we can call it awakening or satori. It wasn't that I suddenly became whatever, but it was an instant moment of knowing. And my whole world changed. And who I was, the me that was there before was gone, a new me. I'm there smiling, almost laughing on the path as I open up my eyes. Baby's okay. Dad's okay. Fingers and toes wiggle. I'm bleeding out internally at this point.
That's right. You're almost dead, but you're reborn at the same time, and you know it.
And so
somehow.
every EMT or fireman or whoever came, they all asked the same question because they had this huge ear-to-ear grin. And they're going, "Did you hit your head?" I'm like, "No." And they're like, "Why are you smiling?" I'm like, "I'm in a lot of pain. Can we get me out of here now?"
Yes, that's right. But it was a life-changing moment because you were, in fact, on some level, born again at that moment. Let's fast forward a little bit because the story listen, sweetheart, I want to talk about this story because I want to know the story. Personally, like we could have done this over coffee. But I want to talk about this extraordinary journey that you and Jessica have been on to create a family. And you now are the proud parents of a 3-month-old child. And this was a hard hill to climb.
So let's go back. I know we just talked about NDE number 1 real briefly. Let's go back to, I don't even remember the exact date. It was 7 years, 1 month, and 17 days later. That I remember after April 2nd, 2006. Somewhere July-ish of 2013, we're hiking outside Lake Tahoe. I had a book tour that had gone badly, and my wife was helping me repatriate myself and get the RV back to the rental place, and we were headed back to Maui. And we had just been on this glorious hike. I had swam in this like glacial little water hole is the best way to describe it. We came out, and as we were hiking back to the RV, told my wife, it's time. It's time to have kids. I'm ready. It was 2013. 1 minute later, I've exploded the right femur, bones on the right side of the body. I'm laying in the water. I've got tunnel vision. The whole world closes in on me, and I was given a decision. Do you want to go into a state of bliss and stay here, or do you want to fight like a mofo to come back? And I had just said I want to have kids.
Wow.
That's the journey.
You really do get instant response from the universe,
I have instant karma. I got to be careful.
Damn, Michael.
So that was the start of our journey, and I chose to come back, and I had to fight like hell. I had no blood pressure. It was actually the most beautiful hour because I'm waist deep in freezing cold water, sitting. It's not deep, and that's probably what kept me alive. But I said, how am I going to keep myself alive? My body is racking in pain. It's shooting pain. There's bones sticking up into the skin, not through the skin, but into the skin. And we were in the backcountry, and I started breathing in light from the sun and sending out love, and breathing in light and sending out love. And I know that there were incredible transmissions that took place during that time. When the EMTs got to me, I had no blood pressure. I was still alive. They were freaking out, but I was still here. And so that was the start of wanting to have kids. It took many years after that. First, we started getting me healed. Then my wife went down with mold toxicity poisoning. And we got booted off of Maui because we couldn't run our business. We couldn't run our lives. Here's me all broken. I had a third accident, not a near-death experience, but I broke all the bones in front of my heart, behind my heart, and on top of my heart to finish cracking me open as I was healing from the NDE.
Yeah.
After that, we had to wait for Jessica to get healed and for us to get in a place to do it, to where we were ready to have kids. And then we gloriously got pregnant. Woohoo!
Woohoo! Exciting! A promise fulfilled. It's like you broke open, you're reformed, and now you're ready and you get pregnant. Huzzah!
Yeah. There goes miscarriage number 1.
That's right.
And whoever they is, says, well, after a miscarriage, you're very likely to be able to get pregnant easily and for it to go well. So jumped right back in, so to speak, as soon as Jessica's ready. And there goes miscarriage number 2. And a miscarriage, for those who aren't familiar with it, it's a loss. I'm here stroking the chair. It's a loss of a child. It's a loss of dreams. It's a loss of everything that you've put in, and you've put in so much. And I can't even imagine carrying a baby once and the communication between mama and baby. Dad's got it easy, and it's completely different, in my opinion. It's just not the same as having a living being inside of you.
It's not the same. Nope.
And then to be brave enough to go through it a second time. And then I don't even remember how the timing came together. It took really maybe a year and a half, 2 years to heal. And we went for it again. And this was now the time of COVID. And so we didn't get all the different tests and stuff because everybody's afraid you're going to get sick if you go in the hospital. And people were going in the hospital very sick. And we thought we had dotted all our health I's and T's and all of those things. And right before a fire chased us out of our quote unquote dream home in Colorado at this point, we had miscarriage number 3. And there's still some healing. I'm looking at my stuff right now because I've done a lot of work, and I'm like, okay, there's still some healing that gets to be done on this. That hurt like a mofo. I mean, there's no way to describe it. And on top of that, we had to leave our home, and we got in a temporary RV in the fall. Then we wintered in Joshua Tree, California. You spoke to us when we were on their way there in Las Vegas at a really cool place.
Yeah.
And then we bought a full-time RV so we could get back to the East Coast, visit Jessica's family, and heal. And it was back here as we're feeling, or actually in New England, as we're feeling healed, as we're feeling whole again, that we wanted to call in our, I want to say child, but at this point, we didn't want to call in a child. At this point, we're like, we've been so far down this freaking messy journey, and we know that we want multiple kids. Let's call in twins. And so we had 2 dolls. They're upstairs, rag dolls, Hana Bear and Miraku, one green, one purple. If I had known we were talking about it, could have brought down the girls. And we had ceremony, and in a sense, we called them in. So we planned on twins before we got pregnant. And we got pregnant. We pulled off the RV, so to speak. We got into the OB, got that first ultrasound, and she goes, are you ready for it? You have twins. And we're like, yeah.
That must have been an extraordinary moment on every level, but besides just the excitement of the news, but the validating of the consciousness practice that led to it. That must have been a glorious moment.
And I had been writing in automatic writing. I knew before we were pregnant that we were pregnant. When Jessica came to me and said, well, I'm like, no, it's done deal.
You can go take we're done. Yeah,
we're good. Actually, she's the truth police, so I can hear her right now. She's going, no, you didn't tell me afterwards. But I had it like written down or something. I didn't want to create a heartbreak situation. Something felt off after that. Jessica's health started going down. She was beyond the normal morning sickness, beyond the normal exhaustion. I can remember when they first told us that we were pregnant with twins, they were like, we'll see how it goes because you're, about Jessica, she was 40. They said, you're geriatric. Can you believe that? 40, you're geriatric.
Oh, Jesus, that's the word they use.
And I'm like, you have got to be kidding me. Talk about a nocebo effect. This is not. But they said she was geriatric, and they goes, there's so many things that can go wrong. There's twin-to-twin transfusion syndrome. There's this, there's that. And you go, no, not our baby. We're going to be babies. We're going to be fine. Maybe it was the next time we went in, we got the ultrasound, and the girls are cuddling each other, which was really cute. And we're terrified of ultrasounds because we've literally had an and I know some people listening go, don't get ultrasounds, they'll kill your kids. Well, in this case, it saved our baby. But in a previous pregnancy, we had an ultrasound 1 week where there was a baby heartbeat. And then the doctor called and said, I've got this really bad feeling or really weird feeling. Do you mind coming back in and getting an ultrasound? And we came in and the baby had passed. So we're kind of terrified of ultrasounds.
Yeah, no, it's bad news moment.
And we still, maybe we'll get to cardiologists, which we're still working our way through here. But basically on the 3rd ultrasound, they called it baby 1, I think, or baby A was growing big and strong. Baby B had stopped really growing. They said, well, it's nothing, it might be fine. It might be just that she's growing slower. Let's get you in next week to this hospital, Children's Hospital down in Philadelphia. And we're like, can we go in today? They're like, no. And we're like, well, can we have an appointment with you in another day or two and then go in today? And we got an appointment. They're like, no, everything's still fine. Can we go in today? Can we go to? we finally forced the issue and got in, I think, on Monday, and we had been told this like Tuesday of the previous week or something, and got the ultrasound. Here's the thing about it, and it might mess with your mind too. We're going to diverge for a second. I'm not so much a thoughts are causative. What you think about, you bring about, law of attraction to an extreme where you're insane. I don't believe in that.
Yeah, that's magic.
But I do believe, I love that word. I do believe that we can pepper, color, paint our world based on what we think and say. So I'm very careful how I parse my words, and particularly at that time, I was being very careful, and I was being very hopeful. We had to go, it was like going into the principal's office. We had to go into a conference room where they had, a giant TV up, and then the doctors come in. And we knew the doctor we were going to be speaking with. She's in her circle, world famous, probably the best of the best for twin challenges. Fuck, Mike. She said, I can't give you both of your babies.
Yeah. Oh, God. Ow.
That hurts. Still hurts.
Was this the most difficult moment of this whole journey?
The most difficult may have actually been when Rue was sick, our pet rooster, a few weeks ago. We thought he wasn't going to make it because that came even more suddenly. And he's doing better now. And we had a 2.5 week period of total hell at one point where the doctor's saying, we've got to take him away and report him to the state. And you're going, what the flip? It was so out of seeing it coming that it freaked us out. This, we had a knowing. So as hard as it is to say, we came in knowing from our automatic writing, from everything, even though what you think about, you bring about. So we're focusing on one thing. We knew.
There was the underlying knowing that there was one more layer to this confrontation with desire, mortality, possibility, all of these things.
The doctor told us we were basically given a choice that was a non-choice. Baby B is going to pass away, they said. And when baby P goes, it could take baby A. And at this point, they had names. They had names since the beginning, Hana and Miraku. When Miraku, and Miraku stands for miracle, when Miraku passes away, it could take Hana away or give her brain damage for life. So what do you want to do? And we're given a choice of do nothing and allow whatever happens, happens. And I'm like, I'm going, is there any, because the doctor was woo-woo. She's familiar with all of our stuff. So it was a perfect match. And she's like, no, never. Because you've got multiple things going on, and you have a placenta that was never made to carry two. Somehow you managed to get two in there, but it's never made to carry two. It was made, though, to have Miracle come through to help Hana to get here.
Yeah, that's the beauty of this.
We had the choice of no choice. It's the choice that you would never want a parent to make, but we were as well prepared and down the rabbit hole as we could to be able to say, we know what needs to be done. And then they said, and we can do it tomorrow. And we're going, no. Can we do it now? Because we knew how close baby Miraku's heart was failing. And baby Hana's heart was, in a sense, failing, trying to keep baby Miraku alive. And so we said, can we do it now?
Alive, yeah. Wow.
And they're like, well, let us check. And they came back and said, yes. I got to watch baby Miraku ascend. It wasn't like, the whole books of near-death experiences, but I saw her go up. And I know the minute it took place, and it was beautiful. The coolest thing. And she's been in touch with me through automatic writing.
Yeah.
Every minute since then. Baby Hana made it through that procedure because I had to do surgery right away to save her life and to let Miraku go. Baby Hana was born. You had to do ultrasounds each month afterwards because of her heart having to pump for two. And her heart was strained, and she needed a heart procedure. We can call it heart surgery, but she needed a procedure after she was born. So your baby's born, and then she's whisked away a few minutes later for tests and all that stuff. And then she's in an intensive care unit for a few weeks. But she got through that surgery and did great. Now, I'll tell you the challenges. She's doing amazing. She's perfect. She may or may not need another procedure. And I'm very careful about my words here, but it's totally not in our hands. But even if she does, it's expected she's going to live the fullest, richest, happiest, healthiest life. It's just that her heart got so strong that one of the valves hasn't worked normally. It did after surgery, but then her heart keeps growing and then it may need something again. Although we've stopped it in its tracks. We're very excited about this. The first month, it reverted because her heart got so strong we had problems with the valve again, but now it's stopped getting any worse. But it's still the emotional roller coaster of each month. And that was this past Friday. You go into the cardiologist, you have the scans. What's the latest? And it's why we're hovering in this tri-state region of New Jersey, Pennsylvania, New York area right now, because there may be surgery in the not too distant future. But I think we feel much more confident now and much more I feel only good is going to come at this point. And I feel we have a very special baby or babies. Miriku's not gone. Miriku's still here. She's just here, still in energetic form. Will she come through? I can't say. That's not up to me. Are we going to give her that opportunity? Yeah, and we'll see. We're told there's a boy circling as well. We'll see what can be done with this geriatric situation.
That's right. Now, can you imagine getting through these last 4 or 5 years without your spiritual underpinnings?
Without spiritual underpinnings, going in for a visit with a doctor who says, I can't save both of your babies. Are you willing to let one go to save the other?
Yeah, no, I can't. I don't know how one does any of those kinds of difficult moments.
I think there would be
so much.
You would be so fractured and be filled with such guilt of choosing, in a sense, one baby. There's no choice, but still choosing. That without that spiritual underpinning, I think we would have been blown apart and just shattered. Instead, whenever I tell this story to man on the street, so to speak, if I tell this for whatever reason, I say, we got Hana. Life is great. We have no complaints. Really, we have no complaints. We don't. What a freaking miracle. No matter what happens, we have a miracle. So all of that is from the spiritual underpinnings. Nothing. A relationship wouldn't have lasted. Everything would have fallen apart if we didn't have that giant blowtorch lantern of guidance from the other side to get through this.
Yeah. Yep. So what? I always hate these kinds of questions when I'm a guest interviewer. That kind of like, what did you learn and how did you apply this? But I do want to hear from you. Like, what would you say are the salient lessons that are codifiable that you learn by how you move through this process? And how did that, or how has that so far entered into your teaching? Because you've been very public about this whole journey to your audience. And I'm just curious as how you would, at this moment, assess the nuggets that you have learned and are now sharing at a deeper
Point number
level.
1, don't go it alone. Don't even try to go it alone. Don't even think you're going it alone. So touch base and admittedly, full disclosure, there are many nights where I still don't get sleep or don't get much sleep. So my morning practice automatic writing can be suspect at best on many days, but do everything you can to touch base with spirit on a daily basis with a process that you can hear back from spirit. And that's beyond the egoic mind. So that's not your mind getting in the way. That's point number 1. Do not go it alone. Secondly, surrender. But I'm not talking about giving up. I'm talking about allowing for whatever is going to be birth, unintended, to come through without trying to force anything. These are the biggest lessons that I've gotten and that I continue to get. All the rest, we think we're in charge. And I like going back to the movie Days of Thunder. Nicole Kidman is lecturing Tom Cruise. She's the brain doc. He's got a concussion. And he goes, you egomaniacs are all alike. You think you're in control when you're out there hurtling around in the track in your, 2-ton car. Control, thinking you're in control is insanity.
Yeah. What I love about this story in its aggregate is that you did practice radical acceptance at every turn. You did not argue with what life was giving you, but you never gave up on the desire and the intention. And here we are, desire, intention fulfilled, beautiful child, family intact. Oh, woo! Thank you, Michael. Please tell my audience a little bit about like where to find you and what you have to offer.
Come join us at our School of Mystics, first and foremost. Let's help you become a mystic yourself or a mystic in training, living on both sides of the veil. That's at inspirenationuniversity.com. And you can use to get a good discount on this. I believe it is the code embodiment 60. So come become the mystic you are meant to be. You're energetically sensitive for a reason. Join the School of Mystics 4 Wednesdays a month. Plus, we do clearing work. You make family and friends and people going on this entire journey with you, this woo-woo journey, we'll say. And secondly, get automatic writing. Learn automatic writing. It is the tool that you need to learn. This point down the rabbit hole, I hear spirit without even needing to write. I still write because it is so deep.
Of course, yes.
But
it's the discipline.
I can hear, and I'm talking with Michael, and I'm talking with you, and words are coming through from spirit as I do this, because you start with what I call a dial-up connection. Actually, before that's probably more like a smoke signal. Then we go to dial-up connection, and then we go to a cable and a fiber optic, and now it's a fiber optic tunnel. So come learn that, and learn that with me live. I teach a live class every month, plus you get a whole video-based program, automaticwriting.com. And there, if you use the coupon code embodiment50, you get a huge discount on that as well. So embodiment 60 for School of Mystics, embodiment 50 here. Now, you can find all of our work, youtube.com/Inspire Nation Show. Go on iTunes or Spotify, Inspire Nation Show, anywhere you want, Inspire Nation Show, and you will find us there.
Awesome, Michael. Thank you for coming on and telling your story. This was beautiful. And as we like to do, woohoo!
Thank you for listening to Conscious Embodiment, Astrology and Dreams with Dr. Michael Lennox. You can find us on Apple Music, the iHeartRadio app, and anywhere you find your favorite shows. Head on over to michaellennox.com for information on astrology readings, the daily Astro Alert subscription, upcoming classes, and to join the mailing list.